Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, and thank you for joining us today. My name is David Talbot. I'm head of research here at Red Cloud Securities, and I'm delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on uranium today. We are going to hear from Forsys Metals Director of IR, Richard Parkhouse, and Country Director, Pine Van Wyk. Now, during today's webinar, they will provide an overview and outlook, and then we will take some questions. You can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can. But before we kick things off, first we need to discuss the fine print. During this Forsys Metals webinar, forward-looking statements may be made. I direct listeners to the forward-looking statements outlined on page 2 of the Forsys presentation, and that can be found on the company website, forsysmetals.com. For Red Cloud Securities, I'd highlight this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. So please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures on Forsys Metals. With that, Richard and Pine, why don't you kick it off?
Thanks very much indeed, David. Great to have the opportunity to share this Red Cloud webinar with you. I'm joined today by my colleague, Pine Van Wyk, who's the Country Director in Namibia, who will be co-presenting with me. As you will see throughout this presentation, we're in the process of finalizing various work streams that will actually lead to updating our financial model in the nearest future. And there are some very positive indications which we want to share with you today, and some exciting catalysts which we believe will propel our enterprise value in the future. Now, David has very kindly drawn attention to the forward-looking statements, which is on this page already. So I will just push on, if I may. For those of you who aren't familiar with Forsys, I'll give you a quick overview. We are an explorer and a developer listed on the TSX since 2007. The company acquired 200% owned uranium deposits, Valencia and Namibplaas in the Erongo region of Namibia between 2007 and 2010, which comprise our flagship project called Norasa. We have some great advantages. Valencia is fully permitted and holds a 25-year mining license out to 2033. We've got a good, solid cash position and no debt. Our current market cap of Canadian 138 million, but we still believe we're significantly undervalued, trading at an enterprise value to resource of only $1.1 per pound. But in 2022, we appointed a very highly experienced team of geologists, metallurgists, miners in Namibia under Pine. And they're currently completing multiple optimization and drilling work streams. We believe that we really are well positioned now to become a top-tier uranium producer. We're in an exciting marketplace where we all see nuclear is taking off and now seen again as the central, secure, renewable resource. Our deposits are located in a top uranium producing country, Namibia, which is very mining friendly and well run, particularly compared to other African countries. It's clearly one of the best regulated and politically stable countries on the continent. Much optimization work has been undertaken across all of the processes and pit modelings, inculcating new technologies which have become available. And earlier in the year, the board approved a strategic shift to heap leaching rather than tank leaching, which will enable a significant and positive improvement to our CapEx and OpEx. Added to which, the team are undertaking a lot more exploration drilling around Valencia, which is already showing substantial upside in resources. Also, the team has obviously been working across the permitting and all aspects of infrastructure, getting us agreement ready with Nam Power and Nam Water. Let's take a quick look at the capital markets profile. As noted earlier, we've got a market cap of around 138 million at the moment with no debt and good cash position. However, like other uranium explorers, equity prices largely followed the spot downwards in the first part of the year. And as you can see in the little box on our share price graph, that shows the uranium spot price, which has had that downward trend, dropping back from 106 at the beginning of the year to its current value of $80 per pound. Our current share price is approximately 76 cents, which has had an uptake during the last few days, I'm glad to say. But we're optimistic that this will substantially improve further as we report more results and, of course, our financial model. As you may expect, we're very optimistic about longer-term sector economics. And if we look at the next slide, here we actually see that we believe that new demand for uranium is driving a bull market. And whilst we have had a short-term blip, prices are now trading at pre-Fukushima levels. The graph on the left-hand side shows how spot has risen during the last 6 years, tracked closely by the North Shore Global Uranium Index. And the graph on the right-hand side is one you may well be familiar with from the WNA, which shows how the supply-demand gap is widening. Fundamentals continue to strengthen, with nuclear power restarts, new builds, excess inventory, drawdown, and a subsequent deepening supply deficit. So it's more important than ever for new primary production like ours to actually come online and help fill this widening supply-demand gap. Our board and management team is strong. We've actually appointed 2 new directors recently. One of them is Knowledge Katia, who resides in Namibia and has very, very strong relationships with the ministries and the regulatory authorities down there. And secondly, we've appointed Pierre Malpanga, who is a capital market specialist. Now, Pine will introduce you to his management team in a minute, though I would say up front that Forsys is lucky to have him and his team on board. And it actually it differentiates us from many other explorers, given that we have that expertise and execution team already in place. I'll just quickly give you an overview of Namibia. And for those of you who don't know much about it, it has been managing significant mining projects across oil, gas, multiple minerals, including uranium, for many, many years. The oldest uranium mine is the famous Rossing mine, which has been producing for over 45 years. But the country, it's an amazing and extraordinary place, and I had the good fortune to spend some time down there myself earlier this year. And it's well worth a visit when you get the chance. But as noted before, it's politically friendly, it's highly regulated with fair taxation systems. And to put it into perspective, it was the 3rd largest uranium producer in 2022, behind Kazakhstan and Canada. And in fact, over the last 45 years, it's been the 2nd largest producer of uranium overall. So mining is their bread and butter, which is why it's so well regulated. And unlike many other countries on the African continent, corruption is very low, and the ministries seek to support and grow the industry for employment and for revenues. So with that, I'm going to hand over now, if I may, to Pine, who will continue drilling down into all of the progress, processes, and give you an overview of his team. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Good morning, good afternoon to all of our attendees. Yes, as Richard has indicated, we are literally based boots on the ground in Namibia. And this map basically gives a quick overview where we are positioned in the uranium district of Namibia. So just to make you a little bit aware of the current operating mines that are currently producing uranium, that's the Rossing uranium mine that's been in operation for 45 years plus. The Heap mine has been in operation for 6-7 years. The Lange Heinrich mine that has just recently restarted, came out of care and maintenance earlier this year and is back into production. And then we have 2 advanced projects, namely the Itangu project of Bannerman that has already started with their early works, getting their temporary water power supplies and road infrastructure in preparation for construction. And then the Deep Yellow Tumas project, which is also quite an advanced project. So we are on the same, let's call it, strike as the Heap, Rossing, and our Norasa project. Is a very similar style of uranium mineralization, and we pretty much about 25 kilometers north of the Rossing operation that's been in production for many years. We are very blessed in this country with a very good infrastructure. We're 25 kilometers from a railway line, a major sort of west-east road infrastructure, power lines and water connections very close to the Rossing site. So all pretty much well-established infrastructure that we can leverage our project off. So if, as Richard has indicated, we have the 2 deposits. The one is the Valencia deposit, over which we already have a fully fledged mining license for some time already. And then the Namibplaas deposit, which is at this stage still covered by an exclusive prospecting license. And as soon as our work is done on the updated feasibilities, we will then push forward and convert that into a mining license. We have a couple of additional mineral licenses that we have applied for earlier this year, that is currently in process to expand our footprint in the vicinity of these licenses, where we do believe there's a great potential for further mineralization along this strike length. And we hope to have some good news during the course of the months ahead with regards to those. Okay, so we are basically a team of 27 specialists that is, part-time and also sort of full-time on the project, driving various sort of optimization and value engineering and new technology work streams to add value to the development of the project, and ultimately trying to improve the economics by reducing the OPEX and reducing the capital cost for this project. The main focus for us during the early days was that we moved to a project that we basically focus on a heap leach technology that has become very common these days for the lower grade Alaskite hosted deposits, specifically here in the region of Namibia, where both Bannerman, Rossing Uranium and Heap are now proceeding with the development of heap leach, either as an add-on capacity and expansion capacity, or as in the case of Bannerman, the primary processing methodology. And it's something that's already been trial and tested over the many years, and is definitely the technology of choice moving forward. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We basically have our resources has been updated in 2024. We have an exploration drilling campaign, an infill drilling campaign that's ongoing, and which will move into early the new year. And then at a certain point in time, we will most likely update our mineral resources coming in 2025 to see how much we further can grow the mineral resources. We've already done the first blast, and we have prepared bulk samples for future planned work. We've got a whole bunch of mine optimization processes running, environmental permitting processes. Wherever we need to, do some updates on those are well advanced. Although we already have permitting for the Valencia project to move forward, obviously further work is required in that regard for the permitting of the Namibplaas pit. But we are not concerned about that, as that pit will only be developed, in the later years, and we still have ample time to move those processes forward. We're making good progress with our agreements with regards to bulk power, bulk water, and also the logistics and facilities at the port, whereby we would need to import our major reagents like sulfuric acid and other reagents that will be used in the process. So this is just sort of a quick refresher of where we sit with regards to our mineral resources. You can see there that we already have on the Valencia side, we've got measured and indicated resource combined of about 45 million pounds. And if you look at our inferred, which is mainly the Namibplaas, which we intend to do some infill drilling, and we only need a limited amount of infill drilling to convert the majority of the Namibplaas inferred resources to indicated, and we will be sitting fairly close to 90 million pounds in the ground. That shows you the size of our deposit and the longevity that this project can produce, 15, 20 years plus a substantial amount of uranium. These are just sort of snapshots of the work done to date on the Valencia and Namibplaas pits with our various world-class resource modeling and pit design softwares that gives you an indication that we have done comprehensive drilling work, and we fully understand the lithologies and the structures that has caused the mineralization zone for these two various deposits. Very interesting is that we do believe that there is towards the southern side of the Namibplaas pit, we have a very good indication that the resources continue in a down-dipping formation there. We haven't drilled the entire strike length, and we do believe that if we continue to drill along strike, there will definitely be an extension of resources in that area, and that is something that we are looking forward to get to once we've completed and optimized the starter pit work around the Valencia resource. So the focus on our drilling has been predominantly around the Valencia main ore body, obviously because we are going to start off the project there, and our main processing facilities will be in close proximity to this ore body that at this stage has got about 60 to 70% of our mineable resources. We've done substantial work on the Valencia West area. We are, with recent results that we've published around that area, we are now confident that we will definitely get an increase in our pit shells into that area. We've done some deeper infill drillings in the Valencia East area with excellent results. That you can see there. We've had higher grade results there. We've had also on the Valencia south side, we've had very long intervals, which had very, very good grades, and indicates that at the deeper end of the main ore body, we could potentially see higher grade material and also an increase in resources. We do have a number of satellite ore bodies that we've started to drill to understand the structures there. These are in close proximity, less than 500, 700 meters from the main ore body. And these provide potential early years of low stripping ratio, easy access, and could definitely advance and enhance the economics of our project. So that's ongoing work over the next few months, and obviously once we start remodeling all of these areas, once all the drill results are in, it will give us a good indication of how much resource upside potential is there just in this close proximity of the Valencia ore body. These are just some cross sections showing some of the upside potential that we've seen. So in certain areas, our infill drilling that we've done, you can see there these big red lines that was in greener and no mineralized zones has now indicated that that whole it will definitely extend the resource estimates in those areas. And as you see, as we go deeper, you can see that the uranium grades do increase as we get deeper. That's very positive for longer term future mining of the open pits. So just a simplified overview of our process, starting off with mining operations, primary crushing, secondary crushing, tertiary crushing, using HPGR, high pressure grinding mills technology, and then from there agglomeration onto a heap leach pad, where we will obviously contact the ore with the sulfuric acid solution, leaching it into the various ponds, going through the typical ion exchange process to absorb the resin, and then from there to purify it through the solvent extraction process, which is all standard processes applied in the uranium industry. No technical risks with regards to new types of technologies there, followed by uranium precipitation and ultimately drumming and production of our final products. We've done a substantial amount of work after we've looked at the sort of decision to move to heap leach technology, and we rework all of our site layouts. We've done substantial survey work, optimizing the process layouts around the heap leach technology and the crushing. So you can see that's sort of the main pit area. We'll build our waste stockpiles out there towards the northwest, and then all the ripios tailings that will eventually come off the heap leach continuous leaching system will then be placed towards the southwestern area in a valley area that we've identified very suitable for the most economic way of disposing that. So obviously the heap leach process makes our flow sheet much easier in the sense that we don't have to build tanks, we don't have to build large rod mills or sort of ball mill circuits to grind the material finer. We believe that our sulfuric acid consumption will be lower. We don't have to implement expensive liquid solid separation technologies like belt filters or CCD thickener circuits to separate the liquids and the solids. All gets done in a very simplified heap leach process, and your uranium solution basically dribbles out and then the uranium is recovered from that. So that's just a photo snapshot of the first bulk sample blast that we did earlier this year. We are going to have access to around 20,000 tons of representative bulk material, and out of that initial box cut, our next phase of work will be the large diameter column test work that we will be doing in the near future, and then ultimately we will finalize through a demonstration heap or a couple of heap runs that we do on site, optimizing the heap dimensions and geochemical and geotechnical design parameters to finalize the detailed designs of the heaps going forward. So we obviously had some key local officials from government, the various ministries, all of our stakeholders within the region attended it, and it was very well received by all of the key stakeholders, and looking forward to get this project into production and generate the new jobs for Namibia, as well as the future forex earnings for the country. So this is a snapshot of our team. We, in essence, have a core team of about 8 people, including myself, that are basically discipline heads. So Peter is driving our mine design. He's a mining engineer. Oliver drives all our geology and the environmental matters. Bob is a process engineer, very experienced in uranium, being one of the key role members during the construction of the USA project. Some administrative people, and then Chris Collins was also involved in both Lange Heinrich and the USA project as a project mechanical engineer, and he's looking after all of our engineering aspects and managing the various subcontractors that we've employed to drive the various work streams. Our key technology and engineering partner is DRA Global, a well-established global presence engineering firm that has got extensive experience in Southern Africa as well as in Namibia, and has got an excellent uranium experienced team that has been involved in most of these projects in Namibia. So what is our sort of work streams that we are focusing on? We have talked a lot about them, but I'm just going to briefly summarize them. On the geology, we are continue with our regional exploration drilling and infill drilling, and that work stream is ongoing. So, from time to time, we will announce, progress and news releases around that. So please watch out for those as they come through. Mining, we are currently rerunning optimized resource models and pit shell designs. We hope that that's completed, within the next month or two, to be used as our sort of mining schedules that will fit into our business case. Utilities, we have recently received the cost estimates and processes to get our power structures, set up through NamPower and to supply us with power for the project. We have signed memorandums of understanding and agreements with basically all of our utility providers, and Namibia's just recently announced that the second desalination plant will be starting with construction early next year, and that gives us great comfort that there will be ample water available for the various projects that are developing in the region. On the metallurgical test work side, we've recently started to test HPGR crushing technology versus conventional test work conventional crushing. Early indications from the first few tests that we've done indicates that it looks like we are achieving better uranium recovery results with the materials that has been crushed by the HPGR crushers compared to the conventional crushers. So we're very excited about that. And then we are currently in the very early stages doing radiometric sorting and XRF sorting evaluations. I'm personally, being a metallurgist, very excited about the early indications that we've seen through the scouting test work that we've done. And we are going to continue to evaluate these two technologies as a great alternative for us to try and upgrade our lower grade material and further improve the economics of our project. So in summary, the Norasa project that is owned by Forsys is one of the most advanced projects that are licensed. We're in the final stages of our sort of value engineering process, and we can move the project rapidly forward. We're in probably one of the best mining jurisdictions globally, where it's known to be able to permit and construct projects in very short periods of time. And that's been proven by, the development of the Langer Heinrich and the Husa project recently. And if I just see at the speed that, the Bannerman project is already moving forward, it just confirms that. We have excellent government support. We have highly experienced uranium team that is already established for our project, people that has been through the mill, that has taken projects from early, exploration phases all the way through into production. There's a whole heap of new technologies that, is definitely going to add further value to our project. And definitely we do see that there's upside potential for exploration and further increasing our mineral resources around the ore bodies that we have. And all of this is underpinned by a very experienced, management and board team. So we are in the right place with the right commodity at the right time, and very exciting times for us to see how we will move this project forward. And I think that in essence where we are at with the work that we are doing on the Forsys project.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, guys. Great presentation. So we are going to kick off the Q&A portion of the webinar right now. Reminder to everybody online, you can type your questions into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. So we already have a few questions here, guys. So I guess as nuclear utilities seek uranium supplies, they're often drawn to companies that have large resources or reserves, and with which Forsys has. Do you have a lot of inbound interest from nuclear utilities seeking offtakes right now, given your 90 million pounds?
Yeah, I think, David, just from recent experience, we've had the Namibian sort of mining expo during August this year, and all I can say is that we have definitely utilities and interested parties from North America that has attended, and we've had very in-depth meetings with them, trying to understand where we are and when we will be ready to start to have those type of discussions. I think it's a known fact that specifically the Western North America are very worried about long-term future supply, from Western regions. And we definitely have people knocking on the door on a continuous basis.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't mentioned during the call, and partially I think because your last study was a resource and not a technical study, or call it a production study, if you will. What size of production, maybe just waving your arms a little bit, can we look towards from from Forsys?
Yeah, David, we've looked at two phases, but typically these lower grade uranium projects is go big or go home sort of projects. So we're probably looking at a 4 to 5 million pounds per annum, production size capacity that would put us on par with the Rossings and maybe slightly smaller than the Hoosaps, but that's sort of the size of operation that we will have, and that we can do then for 20 years plus at that production capacity.
Right. And you are fully permitted right now. You have been for some time. Although in Africa and in some countries nearby, we've seen some licenses overturned because they didn't get production fast enough. Even happened in Namibia, although that drama sounds like it was error more than anything, and nobody lost anything. What's the permitting environment like in Namibia? Yeah,
so obviously, if you've had a permit and you've done very little work and you're basically landlocking, the minister will have a discussion with you and say, look, are you serious? Are you going to move this forward? Give me comfort that you're moving forward, or I'll get another jockey to drive it. But, with a project our size and nature, we've spent millions of US dollars on this project. And the reason that we went into care and maintenance, and it's well understood by government and the ministry, post-Fukushima, we've had the downturn in uranium. The projects, the lower grade projects just became sub-economic. It's only in the recent year or two that, uranium prices has picked up back to where we're in the money, if you want to say that. And now, obviously, yes, there's pressure. The minister wants to see that, this time we catch the wave and we get it done. And that's why we are pushing very hard, to move the project forward.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, Namibia does have and did have extensive uranium production history. How has that helped Forsys find skilled and experienced workers?
Yeah, I think, we're very privileged in the sense that, myself and the core team that I've appointed have been involved in all of these projects, to some extent. And the benefit that we have is, in Namibia, people don't work for companies, they work for people, So, and it's, if myself or, some of my key guys that are in the team have to start phoning around to get the next layer of people as the project, expands, we will be able to pull, the right people. And the skill base is here. There's 3 operating mines. There's 3 new projects, which is us, John Boshoff's project, the DPLO Reptile project, and then the Bannerman project that are ramping up and advancing. So we've got the skill base. It's not like a single project somewhere in the middle of West Africa, where there's no skills. So definitely a good skill base, to pull from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I've been over to Namibia at least 9 times on the uranium side, and I'm impressed with the quality of people there every single time. So yeah. Now you spoke about a 2025 resource update potential. What's your goal for that study? Is it all about resource growth? Are you looking at grade improvement or upgrading confidence? I guess specifically at Namibplaas, because that's where your resources are still inferred.
Yeah. So, that's Namibplaas infill drilling will probably give us the biggest kick up, to increase our indicated resources, back to the high level. We've recently had an estimate of how much work we need to do there. It's actually very limited, not a big drilling program that we will do. But David, we are going to keep poking around certain areas, also around the Namibplaas, to see what is there. And I won't be able to pick a date. Depends what we find. But at a certain point in time, we'll say, okay, good. We've had now sufficient additional discovery. that will really, give us not only a 3 or a 4% increase, but a step change in the resources, and then we'll push the button to get that updated.
Right. And do you need? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, the work on the feasibility study for us, it's pretty much like our exploration. We keep running the models, and then we say, okay, if we do this, it gets better. We in the early stages of these sort of radiometric sorting and XRF sorting technology that we're exploring, and those could be, really game changers from a technology and a flow sheet perspective. So we're not too keen to, press the button and spend all the money, and get to a pre-feas, and then we, have to go and rework most of that because suddenly, the ore sorting shows us a big upside. But we're pushing all of those work streams forward simultaneously. We keep de-risking and advancing the project, and at one stage, I'll say to the board, okay, guys, I think we're ready to push the button to pin down the scope and get it to feasibility and bankability.
Mm-hmm. And obviously that comes after the resource estimate for next year.
Yes. Well, it will probably be hand in hand because you need to underpin, your ultimate bankable study with the best available resource and mining schedules that you can produce out of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are the technologies that might be useful in helping improve project economics here? You mentioned heap leaching and you mentioned radiometric sorting. Maybe touch on those two first, and explaining what they are first of all, because some of our viewers might not know what they are.
Yeah, so I think in my mind there's sort of four things. So the major decision that we made was to move from tank leach to heap leach. That substantial reduction in capital cost and operating cost. Yes, you do sacrifice a bit of metal recovery, in that process, but the bang for buck is just adding value to the project. The technology that we're testing now, a trade-off, is the HPGR, these big roller crushers. They've got a specific way of crushing the rock. That also introduces micro cracks in the particles that will give better access for the sulfuric acid solutions to penetrate the rock. And in the copper gold industry, projects has claimed increase of 4 to 6% increase in recoveries, and we definitely start to see some of those indications. So we're very excited about that. Then we are looking at two ore sorting technologies. The one is the gamma ray bulk sorting, where you sort of put a gamma ray instrument on your conveyor belt, and it will just measure, okay, the next 5 meters is mainly waste, and when it gets to the end of the conveyor, it will just divert it with a chute, to a waste stockpile. So it's more crude sorting. The challenge there is to be able to have high enough, definition and less mixing, to do that. But even if you can reject 20% of the gang material at very low sub-economic rates, it can be really a big game changer, in your operating cost, because you don't have to crush it, you don't have to put sulfuric acid to it, unnecessary, and not get any uranium recovered. And then we are looking at XRF technology. Over the last 10 years, I would say, XRF technology that basically scans rock by rock for the various peaks in the refractory technology. And with that, computer processing capacity and the ability to get reactors to reject rocks has improved substantially. Previously they could only get an ore sorter, that could run maybe at 20-30 tons an hour. Today, with that increased computer capacity and physical capacities, they can run these things up to 200 tons an hour. And there's very good industry references now and it's suddenly become available to low-grade, high-tonnage projects like ours, where you might need 5 sorters in series, and you can treat 1,000 tons an hour. And I know from work that we've done back in the Rossing days, we could reject about 25% of the ore feed, and we only lost 1 or 2% uranium. So that is very good upgrades. And that makes all of your capital downstream so much smaller and higher grade material that you feed through.
Okay. So the XRF, are you actually targeting uranium or are you targeting the waste?
The computer technology, David, actually gives you the opportunity to write algorithms these days that can take a combination of those two. Okay. So in certain rocks, it will see, okay, this is a uranium rock. We wanted the, if it's not a uranium rock, it will then evaluate is it the waste rock. So you can run multiple scanners and use the same technology to target different rocks. Our acid-consuming minerals, like the limestones, is very easily identifiable. And I mean, if we can get rid of half of the acid-consuming minerals and we can reduce our acid consumption from, say, 20 kilograms a ton to 10 kilograms a ton, I mean, it just, reduces our operating costs substantially.
Okay, great. Now, resource and feasibility study updates in 2025 first. When do you anticipate making a financial investment decision or final investment decision, and how quickly might you be able to get to production at that point?
Yeah, David, I think from where we are at this point in time, the level of detail work that we've done already, we're not far off from a pre-feasibility study level of engineering definition. We've gone out to the market. We've got fixed and firm quotes on all the major equipment that will be required for this project. So it's pretty much waiting for us to do that updated resource, then size it, tick the boxes on are we moving forward with any of the sorting technologies, and then within 2 to 3 months, we can produce an updated pre-feasibility study. The next phase is probably will take 6 months post that to get to bankable and investment decision. Obviously, during that period, you'll double process offtake agreement discussions, financing discussions, in the hope that your bankable study will support that. So if we really push it, we could be in an investment decision position, Q4 next year.
Okay. So what sort of development spending is left for this year and next year, assuming pre-construction?
So our remaining budget for this year is about $2.93 million that we will spend. A substantial portion of that is obviously on drilling and finalizing some of the metallurgical test work and the last bits of engineering. We haven't defined the work stream for early next year. That is something that will be in our next budget cycle, which will finish by December. And we're currently in preparation for that, so it's a little bit premature to start to put two numbers to that if I haven't run it past my board. But we're in the process of budgeting that and determining what that would look like, for the first 6 months at least next year to get us to that bankable level.
Okay. And I guess just to wrap up, would you require further funding in order to complete those goals this year, next year? What kind of funding might you consider? We're looking at equity or debt, offtakes, maybe royalty agreements.
Yeah, so we do need to top up a little bit on our funding. And we are actually in the early stages to start to put some definition around that. We've been looking at various mechanisms, and it's basically in the next month or so, we will put forward to the board the options on the table, which might be, a board deal. It might be some debt convertible structures. There's various parties that are talking to us that are interested. We're not concerned about it. It's just for us to try and pick the best model that will work for us at this point in time of where we are in the project cycle.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, great. Well, Richard and Pine of Forsys Metals, thank you for speaking to us today.
Thanks very much indeed, David.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. Reminder that Red Cloud will be back on Tuesday when Taylor sits down with Midnight Sun Mining. So that's another company out of Namibia. So that's October 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you.